Somewhere in your family, there is a name they never told you the truth about. Not a nickname, not a place, but a surname. And if it happens to match one of the 15 we are about to reveal, then somewhere behind you, a knight rode east under a red cross more than 800 years ago and never came home the same. These were the crusader families of Christendom. Some of their descendants returned covered in relics. Some vanished into the sands of Egypt. Some were buried inside the walls of Acre. And their surnames survived. Stay with me until number 1, because the name at the top of this list belongs to the greatest knight England ever produced. If it belongs to you, your bloodline may carry more than iron in it. It may carry chivalry itself. These are not guesses. Every name on this list appears in the surviving Crusader rolls, the Abbey Chronicles, and the pipe rolls of medieval England. The men who bore them mortgaged their castles to buy horses. They kissed their wives goodbye and rode toward the sunrise. And the surname passed to their sons, and their sons' sons, and eventually across the Atlantic to America, which means the name might already be sitting on your birth certificate. Let us begin. Number 15. Mowbray. The Mowbray name comes from the Norman lordship of Mowbray in the Cotentin Peninsula, brought to England after the conquest of 1066. The founding baron, Roger de Mowbray, held more than 100 knights' fees across Yorkshire. In 1147, he sewed the Crusader cross onto his cloak and joined King Louis VII of France on the Second Crusade. According to the chronicler John of Hexham, he defeated a Muslim commander in single combat in front of the Christian army. 40 years later, already an old man in his 60s, Roger did the unthinkable. He took the cross again. He was captured at the Battle of Hatton in 1187, the same catastrophe that lost the true cross itself. The Knights Templar ransomed him. He died soon after in the Holy Land and was buried near Tyre. If your name is Mowbray, your bloodline carries a knight who fought under the same sky as the true cross and refused to come home. Number 14. Talbot. The Talbots crossed the Channel with William the Conqueror. Their name likely comes from an Old French given name meaning destroyer or lightning, and it clung to them for a reason. By the 12th century, the family held lands scattered from Herefordshire to Shrewsbury, and they became the men the Norman kings sent when a rebellion needed crushing. The Talbot line wore the Crusader cross in the campaigns of Richard the Lionheart, and later Talbots rode east with Prince Edward, the future warrior king who became Edward I. By the time the family produced John Talbot, 1st Earl of Shrewsbury, at the end of the 100 Years' War, their reputation as the deadliest fighting house in England was already fixed. The French chroniclers called him the English Achilles. He had inherited it. If your name is Talbot, your bloodline carries a house that never surrendered a field it did not first bloody. Number 13. Beauchamp. The Beauchamp built their fortunes in Warwickshire, and by the 13th century they held the earldom of Warwick itself. The name comes from the Old French for beautiful field, but there was nothing beautiful about how they earned it. At the Battle of Hatton in 1187, Hugh de Beauchamp is recorded fighting alongside Roger de Mowbray in the last stand of the Christian army before Saladin overwhelmed the line. Later generations rode on the Ninth Crusade with Prince Edward. When the Beauchamps came home, they carried Templar iconography into every parish church they founded. The tomb effigies still standing in Warwick show them cross-legged in armor, a medieval sign that the man beneath the stone had once ridden east for Jerusalem. If your name is Beauchamp, or the Americanized Beauchamp, your bloodline carries a knight who stood in the wreckage of Hatton and did not lower his sword. Number 12. Ferrers. The Ferrers came from Ferrers in Normandy, and their name derived from the word for iron, an appropriate origin for a family that produced ironworkers, blacksmiths, and eventually the Earls of Derby. When Richard the Lionheart called for knights to reclaim Jerusalem in 1189, William de Ferrers, 3rd Earl of Derby, answered without hesitation. He had already lost his castles once for backing a failed rebellion. He wanted Jerusalem more than he wanted safety. He led an advance contingent of French knights ahead of the main English army. He never came back. In 1190, William de Ferrers died at the Siege of Acre, one of the bloodiest sieges of the entire crusading age. He was buried in the Holy Land. His son and successor became one of King John's most trusted men. And the coat of arms of the Ferrers, the horseshoes and iron of Duffield Frith, still hangs in the College of Arms today. If your name is Ferrers, your bloodline carries a man who died with the walls of Acre behind him. Number 11. Sinclair. The Sinclairs descend from the Norman lords of St. Clair-sur-Epte, the very village where the treaty was signed that created the Duchy of Normandy in 911. When William the Conqueror invaded England in 1066, Sinclair knights rode with him. Their descendants pushed north into Scotland, took Rosslyn from the Scottish king, and built the family that would later raise Rosslyn Chapel. The Sinclair crusading tradition begins in the era of the First Crusade, though the earliest individual records are disputed by scholars. What is not disputed is that in 1330, Sir William Sinclair of Rosslyn rode alongside Sir James Douglas, carrying the heart of Robert the Bruce toward Jerusalem. He was killed in Spain fighting the Moors, and Bruce's heart was returned to Scotland. The Sinclair line became so tightly bound to the Templar tradition that their chapel carvings are still argued over today. If your name is Sinclair or Saint Clair, your bloodline carries a knight who died with a king's heart in his hand. Number 10. Clifford. The Cliffords came from Clifford Castle on the Welsh border, and for 400 years they served as marcher barons, the men whose job was to hold the wild frontier between England and Wales. The family produced sheriffs, courtiers, and, above all, crusaders. Roger de Clifford took the cross in 1270 under Prince Edward, the future Edward I, and rode east on what history calls the Ninth Crusade. He fought at Acre. He was there when Edward himself was nearly assassinated by a Hashishin blade coated in poison. And when the Ninth Crusade collapsed, Roger de Clifford came home not defeated but transformed. He rebuilt the family castles in the north of England, and the Cliffords became a warrior aristocracy that produced generation after generation of soldiers, all the way to the Wars of the Roses and beyond. If your name is Clifford, your bloodline carries a knight who watched a future king of England bleed and did not leave his side. Number 9. Warenne. The Warennes came from Varennes in Normandy, and their arms, the blue and gold checkered shield, are among the most recognizable heraldic devices in all of medieval England. The founder of the line, William de Warenne, fought at Hastings alongside William the Conqueror and was rewarded with the earldom of Surrey. From that moment on, the Warennes rode in every major campaign the Norman kings called. Members of the Warenne line took the cross for both the First and Third Crusades. Their names appear scattered across the surviving Crusader rolls, compiled by modern historians like Jonathan Riley Smith. Later, Warennes fought in the campaigns of Richard the Lionheart in Palestine. And when the Norman surname anglicized to Warren, the checkered banner traveled with the family across the Atlantic and planted itself in colonial Massachusetts, Virginia, and Rhode Island. If your name is Warren, your bloodline carries the checkered shield of a house that saw Jerusalem when the true cross was still standing. Number 8. Clare. The Clares were one of the mightiest families in Norman England, and their name became synonymous with the Crusader ideal. They descended from Richard Fitz-Gilbert, who came with William the Conqueror, and by the 12th century they held Tonbridge, Clare, and vast estates in Wales and Ireland. Richard de Clare, the man history calls Strongbow, invaded Ireland in 1170 under the banner of the Papal Cross. His descendants took the crusader vow on multiple campaigns. Gilbert de Clare, 7th Earl of Gloucester, and one of the most feared warriors of the 13th century, took the cross for the Ninth Crusade in 1268. Though rivalries with Prince Edward complicated his departure, the Clare estates paid the crusader tax and outfitted knights who did ride east. The Clare name became so grand that Clare College at Cambridge was named for them centuries later. If your name is Clare or de Clare, your bloodline carries the earls who once controlled nearly a fifth of Norman England. Before we continue, if the surnames from 8 to 15 have already stirred something in you, wait until you see what stands above them. Subscribe now, because the next 7 names include the family that ruled Constantinople as emperors and the knight who died within sight of Jerusalem. Number 7. Bigod. The Bigods were among the 20 richest families in Norman England. Their name comes from a Norman French nickname, and their fortunes came from the earldom of Norfolk, granted by William the Conqueror himself. By the 12th century, the Bigods commanded castles at Framlingham, Bungay, and Thetford. Roger Bigod, 1st Earl of Norfolk, founded a crusading dynasty that lasted 5 generations. His descendant Hugh Bigod, 3rd Earl of Norfolk, took the cross for the Third Crusade in 1190, following Richard the Lionheart to Palestine. The family later joined the 5th Crusade against Egypt, and the Bigod name appears again in the campaigns to defend Acre in the years before it finally fell in 1291. The Bigods were also among the 25 barons who forced King John to seal Magna Carta in 1215, meaning they carved constitutional history and crusader history in the same generation. If your name is Bigod, your bloodline carries the earls who signed the charter that ended tyranny. Number 6. Montgomery. The Montgomery name comes from Sainte-Foy de Montgomery in Normandy, and no family climbed higher after the conquest. Roger de Montgomery, one of the closest companions of William the Conqueror, was made 1st Earl of Shrewsbury, one of the great earldoms of Norman England. He built Montgomery Castle in Wales and gave his name to the entire Welsh county still called Montgomeryshire today. His son, Philip of Belmy, called Philip the Grammarian, rode with Duke Robert Curthose on the First Crusade in 1096. The Montgomery line appears repeatedly in the Crusader Chronicles, and the family fought its way across 400 years of European warfare. When the Scottish Montgomerys emerged in the 14th century, they carried the same fighting reputation into the Wars of Independence. When they crossed to Ulster and then to America, the name planted itself in the founding stock of colonial families. If your name is Montgomery, your bloodline carries the son of the conqueror's shield companion who rode east under the cross. Number 5. Bohun. The de Bohuns took their name from Bohun in the Cotentin, and by the 12th century, they held the office of Constable of England, one of the highest military dignities in the kingdom. Every royal army had a Bohun leading a wing. Every royal charter had a Bohun in the witness list, and every generation of Bohuns from the 12th to the 14th century sent knights on crusade. Humphrey de Bohun, 7th Earl of Hereford, was a veteran of the Alexandrian Crusade of 1365, the final major crusade against a Muslim capital. Earlier Bohuns took the cross for the campaigns of Richard the Lionheart and the 5th Crusade in Egypt. Their arms, the blue field with a silver bend and lions, still hang in the College of Arms. When the family died out in the direct male line in the 14th century, their blood flowed into the royal houses of Lancaster and eventually the Tudors themselves. If your name is Bohun, or the American spelling Boone, your bloodline carries the Constable of England himself. Number 4. Courtenay. The Courtenays were the closest thing medieval Europe had to a Crusader royal house. They descended from Peter of Courtenay, the son of King Louis VI of France, which means their veins carried Capetian blood, the direct line of the kings who launched the Crusades in the first place. Peter of Courtenay, later called Peter II, rode on the Third Crusade with Philip Augustus in 1190. 27 years later, he was elected Latin Emperor of Constantinople and crowned by Pope Honorius III at Rome in 1217. He never reached his throne. He was captured by the despot of Epirus and died in prison, but his sons Robert and Baldwin II both became emperors of Constantinople after him. The English Courtenays, descended from Reginald de Courtenay, became the Earls of Devon and produced a chain of knights that lasted centuries. If your name is Courtenay, or the more common Courtenay, your bloodline may descend from an emperor who wore the crusader cross to his coronation. Number 3. Longaspie. The Longaspies carry one of the most literal warrior surnames in medieval history. The name is French for long sword, and it was given to William Longaspie, the illegitimate son of King Henry II of England. His grandson, William Longaspie the Younger, commanded the English forces in the Seventh Crusade under King Louis IX of France. In 1248, he sold a charter of liberties to the town of Poole for 70 marks to fund his expedition. In February of 1250, at the Battle of Mansoura in Egypt, the French Count Robert of Artois led the Crusaders into a trap ahead of the main royal army. 280 Knights Templar and William Longaspie died on the same day, cut down by Mameluke cavalry inside the town. Longaspie's mother, Countess Ayla, was said to have seen him received into heaven by angels the day before. His remains were returned to Acre in 1252, and an effigy of him still lies inside Salisbury Cathedral. If your name is Longsword, or the ancestral Longaspie, your bloodline carries a martyr of Mansoura. Number 2. Percy. The Percys arrived in England in 1067, 1 year after Hastings, and became the most feared noble family in the north of England for 400 years. Their name comes from Percy-en-Auge in Normandy. The founder, William de Percy, called Aux Gurnons for his unusual whiskers, built up an enormous northern fief centered on Topcliffe in Yorkshire, and rebuilt York Castle in 1070. And then, when Duke Robert Curthose mortgaged Normandy to fund the First Crusade in 1096, William de Percy sold his lands, raised his household knights, and rode east. He fought at Antioch. He marched with Robert Curthose's army toward Jerusalem. And in 1099, William de Percy died within sight of the Holy City. His body was buried at Mount Joy near Jerusalem. His heart was carried home and buried at Whitby Abbey in Yorkshire. The Percy Silver Crescent, said to have been taken from a captured Turkish standard, became the family badge. If your name is Percy, your bloodline carries the man whose heart is buried in England and whose body never left the Holy Land. Number 1. Marshal. There is no name in medieval English chivalry more thunderous than Marshal. William Marshal was born the fourth son of a minor baron, held as a hostage as a child, and raised as a warrior with nothing to inherit. He should have died forgotten. Instead, he became the greatest knight of the Middle Ages. In 1183, on his deathbed, Henry the young king placed his own crusader cloak on William Marshal's shoulders and begged him to carry the vow to Jerusalem. Marshal did. From 1184 to 1186, he served the King of Jerusalem and fought alongside the Knights Templar in the Holy Land. He returned to England carrying 2 white silk shrouds meant for his own burial. He kept them for 30 years. William Marshal went on to unhorse Richard the Lionheart in single combat, save the throne of the young Henry III from a French invasion, and die as Earl of Pembroke and Regent of England in 1219. On his deathbed, he was received into the Order of the Knights Templar, wearing the 2 shrouds he had brought back from Jerusalem. If your name is Marshal, your bloodline carries the greatest knight who ever lived. If your name is Marshal, tell us in the comments, and tell us which name on this list came closest to your own. Then subscribe, because the next bloodline we uncover might be the one hiding inside your family name, waiting for you to trace it back 800 years.